Okay, now we're continuing on learning in this week's Torah portion, which is called Mishpatim. And up to now, God has been doing pretty much everything. He took the Jews out of Egypt and he split the sea, gave them the bread from heaven, and we learned all about that. Parshas Beshalach, and he gave water from a rock, and then he gave the Torah. And now the Jews are going to have to do the work themselves. And here we're starting with commandments. So this week's Torah portion talks about commandments. Commandments, physical commandments. The Jewish people are going to have to do these things with the physical world. And the reason is because there can be no greater pleasure or fulfillment of a human being than to do what God wants. Okay, here are some laws which, how do you say, it's not a commandment to do them. If it happens, these are laws of damages. It doesn't mean you have to go and damage your friend's property or whatever in order to fulfill these laws. No. It means that if there are damages, then this is what you do. So let's go. Ki yaver ish. Is this where it is? 1 second. Here it is. I'm sorry, I skipped. Okay, yaver ish. It's a der kiram. If a person's animal, yaver, he says this means an animal. Like anachdu bi'irenu. If a person's animal goes and it eats up the field of his next door neighbor, so he has to pay from his best properties. He has to pay. You're supposed to guard your animals so that if it goes into somebody else's field, you have to pay the best. You have to estimate how much the damage is and pay the damages. Next law, kitetze eish. What if you light a fire in your backyard and the fire goes out? And the fire goes out and it burns up thorns or the haystack or whatever is the pile of wheat of your field, of your next door neighbor's field. You have to pay the value of the fire. You have to pay the value of what was burned up. Okay, we're going to look in this book and see. Yeah. What this implies. We'll look in this book, Mitzvot HaShem, and we'll see what this implies in legal terms. Next commandment. If a person gives to his friend money or vessels or anything to protect, and it gets stolen from that person, if you find the thief, he has to pay double. Okay, now we're going to get into the idea, to the laws of a guard, or what do you want to call it? Someone who is trusted. I have my bicycle. My next door neighbor wants the bicycle. So there's basically 4 ways that on terms that I can give it to him. Either I can just give it to him, he can borrow it from me. In case if so, then he doesn't pay anything for it. I'm just loaning it to him. So he really is guilty of any damages almost that are incurred. What if, on the other hand, the person he borrows it from, what if I pay him? I pay him, I say, listen, I'm going somewhere, take my bicycle and guard the bicycle. Well, then he's receiving money to protect my bicycle. Oh, so this is even worse. Now he's really obligated, right? What if he says he pays me? He says, I'll pay you money to use the bicycle. He pays me. That's called a shomer. It's called he's renting it. Then there's a person that I pay him to watch my bicycle. That's a shomer sachar. So there's 4 ways. Either I give it to him for free. Right? I give it to him. He requests it from me. I give it to him to use for free, or he pays me to use it, or I pay him to watch it. So let's see. here we have, if a person gives to his friend money, this is talking about the Rambam says, this is talking about a shomer chinam. In other words, I am giving him this money and he has to watch it. He's doing me a favor. He's watching the money for me. He's watching the money for me. He doesn't have any permission to use it. He's just watching the money. If so, what happens? He is not liable almost at all. At all. I'm asking him to do me a favor. He's watching my things for me. If it's stolen from the house, then if you find the thief has to pay double. If you don't find the thief, then I take the person I requested to watch to the Elohim. This means the judges. And he has to swear that he did not misuse this thing that I gave to him, right? I gave him my bicycle and I say, listen, do me a favor, watch the bicycles. You're going to pay me? No. Can I use it? No. Just watch the bicycle for me. That's all. I'm leaving and going on a trip. I'm going to be back in a week. Just watch over my bicycle. Nobody steals it. I come back, the bicycle's not there. I say, what happened to my bicycle? I said, well, I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened. So I take him to court and he makes an oath that he did not touch it. And he's exempt. I'll call Davar Pesha on anything that I suspect that there's something wrong. An ox, a donkey, a sheep, a garment, anything which is lost, and I can say, this is it. I can point to it and say, well, this is it. If I give it to someone to watch, and he doesn't watch it, but I didn't pay him anything. So we go to the Elohim, we go to the judges, the Elohim means judges. The one that the judges, if the judges find that in fact, this person was supposed to be watching for free, he put his hands on my bicycle, he used it, and that's why I got wrecked, then he has to pay double. He took an oath, he lied on the oath, he has to pay me back double. Anything that I give him. If a person gives to his friend a donkey or an ox or a sheep, any animal to guard, and it dies, and nobody sees it, this one is talking about a, it says, the first one was talking about a shomer chinam. Therefore, he is exempt for everything. Therefore, it says if something is stolen from him, then he just makes an oath and says, I didn't touch it, right? Because he was watching it for free. Therefore, he exempts himself. But this one is talking about someone who I pay. I pay him to watch. Therefore, he is really very responsible. Therefore, the only time he's going to be exempt is if it's something really unusual happens to it. If it gets stolen, he has to pay me. I'm paying him to watch it. Right, like a bank. I put my money in the bank. If the money gets stolen, the bank has to pay me back. They can't say me. I'm paying the bank the money to watch my things. If, for instance, if the animal happens to die on its own, or the animal somehow or other breaks a leg on its own, or there were armed robbers that forced me to give it to him, then I'll be exempt. Okay, so we'll see. Then the oath of God will be between both of them. Im lo shalach yado, so he has to swear that he has no hand in this damage or the loss of this item that he was supposed to watch. If it's stolen, then he has to pay it back to his owners. If I'm paying somebody to watch it, if the thing gets stolen from him, he has to pay me back. In Torah, if some sort of a wild animal, a tiger, comes and it kills the donkey that I entrusted to this person for money, then he brings a witness and the aid, then this is considered to be an unusual damage that he couldn't prevent, and therefore he doesn't have to pay. What if my next door neighbor, it's not that I gave it to him to watch, or I paid him to watch it, but he borrows it from me. If he borrows it from me, then v'nishbaro meit. If I'm not with him at the time when it's there, then he has to pay. Right? He borrowed it from me. If he borrows it from me, then any sort of damages that are incurred, he has to pay back. He has to pay me back. He borrowed it. Okay, those are those first laws. Let's go. We finished these laws of damages as far as guardians are concerned, right? So there's 4 ways. Again, I have my bicycle. Either I can give it to my next door neighbor and ask him as a favor he watches it. Then he's almost not liable for any damages. Or I pay him to watch it. Or he borrows it from me, he requests from me, then he's really liable. Or I give it to him for free. He has to watch it for free, then he's not liable at all. I say, watch this thing for me, he's not liable at all, unless he put his hand on it, unless he was the one that incurred the damage. Then let's just do a couple more, and then we'll look at the law book and see how this comes out. Kiyafata ish betula. If someone, what's it called, seduces a girl who is below 12 years old, and she is a virgin. Asher or in other words, it's known she's a virgin. She doesn't have a bad past. She wasn't divorced, etc. Asher Laura saw that she's never been married, and he has sexual relations with him or with her, then he has a choice. Either he has to marry her, but if she doesn't want to marry him, or he doesn't want to marry her, then he has to pay a damage. What's the damage? It says more of a tulot. I'm sorry. Then he has to take her for a wife. If if she refuses, either she, or in this case her father, because she's a minor, doesn't want to, or he refuses to marry her, then he has to give her kamor batulot, the amount of the batulot, which is, it says 200 units of silver. Next commandment. Machashefa lo techia. Sorcerers should be put to death. They're brought to death in Beit Din. This is whether this happens to be, it says a sorceress, mechashefa, feminine. Really, the law applies to male or female. Why does it talk about female? Because usually women are more attracted to witchcraft than men, usually. Another penalty of death law, anyone who has relations with an animal will be put to death. All the animals also put to death. Zoveach le'Elohim, a person who makes sacrifices to idolatry, yacharam, will be killed, yamut. Bilti Lashem levado. You should only make sacrifices to God alone. It's only permissible to worship the creator of the universe, nobody else. This law applies to Jews and non-Jews. Ger, a convert, lo se'oneh v'lo sechaltzeno. A ger, it is not forbidden to, cause him pain, says Rashi. Onas devorim. You're not allowed to cause him pain. What do you mean? For instance, like you say, your parents used to eat, crabs, living animals. They used to eat each other. You just keep a low profile. Forbidden to say a thing like that to a convert. But your parents, lo techaltzeno, you're not allowed to steal money from him. Now, really, this applies to anybody. You're not allowed to do this to anybody. But if you do it to a convert, then it's two sins. It's called onat devarim, saying things that cause other person pain. It's forbidden, whether for a Jew or a non-Jew. But if you do it to for a Jew or a convert is a Jew, but he came from non-Jews. So if you cause him pain by speaking harshly, then bullying him, then it's a double sin. Also the same thing about stealing from him. Why? Because you yourselves were converts from the land of Israel, of Egypt. If you cause him pain, he can cause you pain. He can say, you used to be slaves in Egypt. Well, you're no better than me, etc. Ger can mean several things. A ger means a convert, but the word ger also means a temporary resident. A person that was not born here in my country, he's a foreigner. He's just living here. Foreigners, that's also a ger is called a foreigner also. Applies. Kalma almana, here's another similar law. A widow or an orphan, lo ta'anun, you're not allowed to cause them any pain, any difficulty. You can't cheat them. If you do, then it's a double sin. In addition to that, it's forbidden to cheat anybody, but it's also forbidden, in addition to that, to cheat a widow or an orphan. And if you do make them suffer, if you do, if they yell out to me, I will hear their cries. And I will be angry, says God, and I will kill you with sword. What's the problem with a widow and an orphan? A widow and an orphan, they're helpless, right? The man of the house is gone. The woman is not married to anybody, so there's nobody really to take up her cause. So it says, don't worry about it. God said, I'll take up their cause. And if you make them trouble, then your wives will be widows and your sons will be orphans. Okay, let's look at some of these laws over here. No, a little bit more, 2 or 3 more. Okay. Im kesef talvet ami, if you loan money to my people. This im does not mean if. This means that you should. When, it means when you loan money to people, right? Money to people, and you should do it. You should loan people money. It's a good thing to loan money. What's so unusual about that? It says, the poor people, lo tia kanoshe. You're not allowed to be like a, what's it called, a usurer. Lotus, you're not allowed to take interest. You're not allowed to take interest from a loan. If you loan money to a Jew, you're not allowed to take interest money from a Jew. Rabbi Ishmael says that anytime it says im in the Torah, it means optional if you do, except for 3. And this is one of them. This is saying if you do means that you must loan money to other people. What does that mean? If it's a Jew and a non-Jew, lend it to a Jew first. If it's a poor person or a rich person, lend it to a poor person first. If it's a poor person from your city or a poor person from another city, then the poor people of your city are first. That's what it means. That you should loan money to a poor person before you loan money. That's what it means. You must loan money to a person, and the poor people you should loan to them first. You can say, well, I got a better idea, give them charity. So it says that no, loaning is better than giving charity. Because what do? You loan money to somebody and you say, this is not charity. I want you to pay me back, but you can pay me back whenever you want. If you're not able to pay me back today, tomorrow, a year, 2 years, 10 years, Okay, don't pay me back 10 years. But eventually you should pay me back. Right? If you pass away, you can't, then the debt doesn't go to your children. It's only yours. So in other words, you're making him feel like a person. If you give him charity, even though most people would, of course, rather accept charity. But after it's done, the person receives charity, he feels like a bum. He feels like he's low. He would rather have a feel human, that he has a responsibility to pay it back, than to receive charity. That's the nature of people. But you're not allowed to take interest from a Jewish person's, from loaning money to a Jew. Now, if you think about it, it really doesn't make any sense, because when you're loaning money to somebody, so you could use that money to make money. So if you loan, let's say, for instance, I could put money down and make interest 5%, right? 10%, I could make interest. So I have $1,000, I could invest it somewhere and I could get back $100. But I'm being a nice guy and I'm giving it to somebody else. Why should I lose money? Why should I have to lose money? It doesn't make any sense. Therefore, it says that if you loan money to a non-Jew, you should take interest, because it's a proper thing. All the banks go into a bank and say, I want money for free, right? If you don't have a gun, they're not going to give it to you. No one gives away money for free, especially to a person you don't even know, and especially a person that's poor. I haven't got any money, please give me money. Who's going to give it to you? And so therefore, it's only logical and proper you should take interest, and therefore from a non-Jew you can take interest, but from a Jew you have to be unusual. It's a crazy commandment. You're not allowed to take interest. You have to give interest-free loans. Even more, im chavol tachbol salmas reyacha, if you take as a surety, right? I loan someone $10,000 and he gives me all of his tuxedos or his car, right? I have to give it back to him if he needs it for his work. I have to give it back to him, and then he returns it back to me the next morning or the next evening, whenever it is that he doesn't need it. That's the way it has to be. If, for instance, it's a garment, right? I loan him $100 and he gives me his coat. The person needs his coat. This is his only coat. He's a poor person. That's why he's taking the money. But how is he going to go to sleep? Right? He's going to be cold. If he cries out to me because he's cold, he's naked, I will hear, because I am merciful. Okay, one more law, and then we're going to look in the law book. Elohim lo tekalel. Do not curse a judge. In this case, Elohim means judges. We had that before. V'nasi b'amcha, and a leader of your people, lo ta'or, also another word for the leaders or the judges. You're not allowed to curse them. It's a forbidden, it's a negative commandment. You're not allowed to curse them. Okay, let's look in the law book and see if we can make this out over here. Here we go. What's going on here? Oh. Huh? Okay, I hope this comes up on the screen. Here we go. Here are the commandments that we just finished learning. See if we can go over them. Here we go. It's a positive commandment that the courts, actually we started before this today. Here it goes, here. Pointer. It is a positive commandment that the judicial courts have to judge the laws of damages incurred by my animal. If my animal damages somebody by eating or trampling, etc.,
That's what it means. If my animal damaged somebody else's property, then the court has to take this into judgment. Commandment. Another commandment, positive commandment. The courts have to judge damages caused by fire. Like it says, Kitetse Eish Shalem. Now, really, it doesn't mean only fire, but anything that's similar to fire. For instance, if I shoot arrows into my next door neighbor's property, so it's the same thing like fire. In other words, I just instigated the thing over here. I let the arrow go, and that's it. It's not in my control anymore. So why should I be guilty? Same thing. I lit a fire in my property, and the fire blew over into my next door. Why should I be guilty? So it says, well, the fact is you could very well be guilty, and that's what the court has to decide. That's called Nizke Eish, damages of fire. Next commandment, the court has to judge the laws of a shomer chinam, of someone who is watching, guarding over my bicycle or property, whatever, for free, doing me a favor. If something gets stolen or lost, then this person who's guarding for free is doing me a favor. All he has to do is take an oath that he did not cause the damage, and he is exempt. Next, what about Torn Venitan? In general, if I deposit something by my friend and I say you stole it, and he says he did not, he doesn't know where it is, we go to the court and the court decides what's the law. If the person admits to a portion of the loss, for instance, I gave him $1,000 and all the money is gone, and he says, okay, I admit I took 500. So he makes an oath on everything that he took, and etc. If they find the thief, then the thief has to pay double. We'll talk about that in a moment. Monetary cases. Of course, we're doing this very quickly, but just so that you should know, in general, what the subject is of this Torah portion. Now, you have to remember, this is not Moses that wrote this down. This is God himself told Moses what to write down. Everyone knew that it was God. That's why this Torah portion starts off with ve'ele. And these are that just as God said the 10 commandments on Mount Sinai, also he said these on Mount Sinai as well. Next, positive commandment, that the courts have to judge the laws of a paid watcher. A paid watcher, right? I give somebody $100 to watch my car. I'm going somewhere, okay? Then that person, he is really responsible unless there's a really unusual circumstances occur, then he is really responsible to pay. And he has to take an oath, of course, that he didn't, if he tries to get out of the damages, if he says, for instance, wild animals came, so he has to take an oath. If he was lying, he has to pay double. Positive commandment on the court to Jewish courts to judge the law of a borrower. Someone borrows my bicycle from me. He's also very, very chayav, also, just like the same thing as a person that I pay to watch my possessions. He borrowed it from me, so he's responsible for any damages that occurred, unless they are unusual damages. Positive commandment. The court has to judge the case of a underage girl, under 12 years old, that was seduced. Like it's yifata ish. There's another law also if a woman is raped. That's a different law to talk about. Interestingly enough, in Judaism, the punishment for rape is not death, not a death penalty for rape. Negative commandment. For rape, though, he has to pay all damages, the embarrassment, shame, etc., pain. But if he entices her, the girl then doesn't have to pay those things.
A negative commandment. We could take one class on each and every one of these, but there's 52 laws. So we only have 45 minutes. So if we did one law every minute, it wouldn't go. A negative commandment. The court has to punish by death a witch, a sorcerer, a sorceress. This law this law, of course, is not relevant now. It says, "V'noag k'shedani dinam pashas." This law is not relevant nowadays. It's only relevant in the time when there was a death penalty. And the death penalty in Judaism stopped about, 50-something years before the second temple was destroyed. And as I've said hundreds of times, even when there was the death penalty in its full force, it was almost impossible to kill someone. And it says that a court that killed a person once every 7 years, and according to one other opinion, it says 70 years, is called a hanging court, a destructive court. So it's almost never implemented this. Negative commandment, not to cheat or give any pain to a convert, not to cheat or convert in words, like it says gertoneh. Also, you're not allowed to cheat him with money and to give him any pain with money. This is everywhere, even now, men and women. Next commandment, negative commandment. Do not cause any pain, discomfort to a widow or an orphan. Like it says, Alman of Yatom lo ta'anun. A widow and an orphan do not cause distress. Forbidden to speak to them harshly. You have to be careful, very careful with their money. Don't anger them. Don't cause them any pain. How much more, if anyone who does, how much more so a person who hits a convert or a widow or curses them, you're transgressing a negative commandment. This negative commandment is applicable now as well. In Bakol Makom, every place, every time, in men and women. What does it mean, any time? Even when there's no holy temple. Any place means even outside the land of Israel. Positive commandment, to loan money to poor people, to loan money to poor Jews, like it says in Kesef Talvei Tamid. It says this is an obligation, and this is greater than giving charity. That's what the way I explained it to you. Even though it's a commandment also to give charity, there's no doubt about it. But it's more, respectable for a person to receive a gift, a loan than a gift. Negative commandment, not to demand from the one who borrowed money from you his debt, if you know that he can't pay you back. Like it says, lo noshe. It is forbidden to demand the money back if you know he can't pay. Right? Somebody borrows $1,000 from you, and you know he hasn't got the money to pay back. So don't ask him for it. You know that he can't. It says even more. You're supposed to try to avoid him so he doesn't see you. Right? If you think that the person does have money and he's just avoiding you, then you can remind him. But on the other hand, if you know that he can't pay you back, he's in hard times, he can't pay you back, and then not only should you not demand it from you, you should try to avoid seeing him. Hashem will arrange it that he does see you, or will remind you when he gets money. That's life. On one hand, it's a commandment to loan money. On the other hand, you're not supposed to demand it back if you know the person can't pay you. Negative commandment. You should not be a middleman between a loaner and a borrower for loan. What does it mean? I can't loan money to a Jew for this.
at interest. So what do? I go to my friend Ivan, and I say, Ivan, listen, there's a Jew that needs a loan. I'll bring him to you. You loan him money, and I'll get a portion of that money. Right? You're not allowed to do that. Lo sesimum nasher. You cannot be a go-between between the loaner and the borrower. How much more so if it's a Jew? If it's a Jew, you know he's going to do a sin, so you can't loan money to a Jew for interest, and you can't arrange it to be a go-between between another Jew, encourage another Jew to give to a Jew for interest. Next law, negative commandment. Do not curse a judge. Like it says, Elohim lo tekalel. A person who curses a judge, if he uses one of the names of God, then he gets beaten, lashes. In fact, he gets a double beating. The maximum number of lashes you can get is 39. So it says but here you get lashed twice. Once because of this, and another time because of cursing a judge. And not only that, it's forbidden to curse any Jew. You're not allowed to curse. And if you take the name of God, you're not allowed to curse anybody with the name of God. That's misusing the name of God. Forbidden to do. Also, you're not allowed to curse a leader or a king. Like it says, Nasiv Amecha lo ta'or. So you're not allowed to curse a king or a leader as well. This is the only one there is such a thing as a king in the Jewish people or the head of the Sanhedrin. And that is today's lesson. Have a good day. God willing, tomorrow we'll continue with as much as possible. 8:15. Hope to see you all in Chassidut tomorrow morning. Shalom uvracha. Have a good day with Mashiach now.